Welcome. Thank you very much for joining for the 18th episode of YCP's virtual monthly series, Refiner's Fire. Every month, Catholic business leaders from diverse industries share spiritual and professional wisdom with us, all in short 30-minute live sessions. And in spite of the short length of these sessions, we hope that the tips and insights will be really valuable to us as we seek to work in witness for Christ. So the name of our series, Refiner's Fire, actually comes from Scripture, from Malachi, where we learn that God is like a refiner's fire who seeks to purify us and make us the best we can be. And that's the whole point of this series. Through the wisdom and inspiration that's shared from these exceptional leaders, we're inspired to improve in small ways in our professional and spiritual lives. So let's be open to this journey of refinement so that in everything we do it aiming for that higher standard of excellence that gives glory to God. So our topic this month is friendship and virtue in the workplace. We're going to talk about friendship at work and how we can cultivate real friendships, how you can cultivate real friendships in your current work setting. And I can't think of a better person to speak about this topic than Dr. Jonathan Sanford. He's the president of the University of Dallas, and he's also a professor of philosophy. And I heard that you're currently writing a book on virtue and education, and that you're also lecturing widely on a variety of topics. So thank you so much, Dr. Sanford, for being here today.
It is such a pleasure to join you, Jennifer. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. So St. Thomas Aquinas, your friend in philosophy, has famously said, "There is nothing on earth more to be prized than true friendship." So why have you chosen this topic of friendship and virtue at work, and why do you think it's so relevant for the young worker today?
Well, friendship is indeed one of the greatest goods of our life. In many respects, it's the greatest good. If you think about the way in which God's friendship with us is the very essence of charity. That's something that Aquinas argues in the Summa Theologiae. So friendship is a great good. God himself is a kind of friendship of three persons, and he's made us communal beings. He wants us to live our lives with others. And where do we spend most of our time?
Mm-hmm.
It's not outside of the workplace. It's actually in the workplace with others. And we want to flourish in those environments. And so thinking about friendship and how best to cultivate it within the workplace and thinking about the virtues and their relationship to friendship allows us to put our minds, both our kind of our intellectually focused minds on this question, and also to think about some practical ways that we can live our faith and in the workplace and do so in a way that really is deeply fulfilling, not just for ourselves, but those with whom we work.
That's beautiful. And that's a perfect segue to my next question. What does this look like practically in the workplace? And do you have any tips for us as we're looking to cultivate these real friendships in our current work setting?
Yeah, great question. And everyone's workplace is different. Some people might have a home workplace right now, and a lot of their engagements are virtual, or episodically they'll be involved in others. That's a particular challenge. But from a practical point of view, I think the most important thing that we can each do when it comes to cultivating friendship is to be a person worthy of good friendship. Okay, so that's step one. And what that entails, of course, is that we have a real commitment to cultivating the intellectual and moral virtues. The cardinal virtues are especially important there. And one of the moral virtues is actually friendliness. And there's a sort of lost art. I'm sorry for the bells. I forgot about them. But I'm going to close my door. 1 second.
It's the life of a university professor, right? This is his workplace environment.
I apologize for that. The AC is off in my room today. They're fixing it.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyways, so friendliness is one of the virtues that both Aristotle and Aquinas identify, and a lot of those soft skills that hopefully our parents or others taught us when we were young really come to um, bear
Mhm.
when we think about our relationships with others. And then practicing those virtues, right? At the very heart of friendship is a shared commitment to the good. Um,
Mhm.
and the good is multiplex, Aquinas says. It has many different facets, many different dimensions. Our faith is a fundamental good, but so too are the shared purposes within the workplace. So
Mhm.
long as we're striving to produce good products or provide excellent services, and being focused in the right manner on those shared commitments is a
Mhm.
great way to cultivate those relationships with others. So I think sometimes we can think that to really be a friend, we need to bare our heart.
Mhm.
And one doesn't start with that, right? That's more what happens on a talk show,
Yeah.
where there's this kind of over deep exposure of
Yeah.
one's feelings.
Mhm.
But we can begin in cultivating friendships in the workplace around the things that we already share, right?
Mhm.
And as we get to know those with whom we work more deeply, what
Mhm.
we share can deepen as well. And there can be points of rich continuity that are discovered and become part of our everyday conversations. And there could be points of discontinuity where we do find opportunities to hold our friends accountable,
Yeah.
our workplace friends, right? So when you think about the kinds of goods that are shared in friendship, Aristotle and Aquinas, they both divide them into different categories. We can share things that are useful, so we collaborate on projects.
Mhm.
We can share things that we enjoy doing together.
Mhm.
The Celtics game last night, deeply disappointing for the Celtics fan, right? But having a conversation about that is a
Uh-huh.
way to facilitate some friendship. But
Right.
then as we move deeper and get to know our coworkers better, then we share those things that matter most to us. So one
Mhm.
one mistake can be
Mm.
jumping out too soon and thinking, it's your job to um, lay everything that's in your heart right on the line. That's
Right.
really it can be an obstacle to cultivate
Mhm.
real friendship.
Mhm. And it is interesting that you note that, because it does seem right now the world is telling us to kind of wear our heart on our sleeves completely. But I think for a friendship to be built on a true foundation, it has to start, in sort of the right way, like you're planting a garden. So
That's right. That's right.
makes sense. And so you've mentioned some of the virtues. You said the cardinal virtues. Are there any that stand out, in your mind in terms of acquiring and growing these true friendships?
Yeah. So I mean, the cardinal virtues are a great point of focus because they govern every facet of our lives. They're called cardinal because that's a Latin term that means a hinge, like a hinge on a door.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they're the virtues that open up a way to live well. And so obviously we want to be just to our coworkers. We want to make sure that we pull our fair share of the weight. We want to make sure that we can expect them to do the same and have some brave conversations if we're not, right? Bravery or courage, fortitude is another. And oftentimes fortitude calls for kind of endurance, right? So
Hmm.
not complaining about the work that we
Hmm.
need to share, and being a good teammate in that sense. That's a part of courage, actually. And
Hmm.
then pursuing those common goals in a way in which you're really engaged as a member of the team. You're not domineering. You're somebody that other people want to be with, right? You're friendly, right?
Hmm.
Remember what that entails. Temperance may not seem really obvious, but if
Hmm.
if you're the person to consume the lion's share of donuts in the break room, uh,
Yeah.
or if you're showing up hungover
Yeah.
or late or whatever, your personal faults can really impede teamwork and can impede your ability to cultivate friends with others and to be a good friend to them. And
Hmm.
then prudence, the master virtue of those cardinal virtues. This is the virtue that conduces to right judgment. It requires that you have the other virtues to draw upon and think about what is best in any given circumstance. There's no formula for right action, and one of the reasons I emphasize the virtues is not just for friendliness, but it gives us a kind of template for how to navigate um, difficulties within
Hmm.
the workplace, not just within the culture of the workplace, but sometimes we're asked to do things that give us pause, and we wonder, is it right for me to do this? And if it's not right, how should I best confront this challenge to what in fact is just, right? So by thinking about the virtues, by cultivating the virtues, we're standing ready to jump in as we should in whatever the circumstances.
I really love the virtues. They're incredible. I think we don't talk about them enough. And I could really see prudence, they're all so critical, but like you said, I could see prudence being really one of the top, because there's nuances, when you have friends at work. I mean, the world right now is all about excess, and so you could see people either becoming too friendly. There is sort of a boundary that you have to maintain, I would think, at work. And just what you share, and again, really making sure the friendship is virtuous. I think prudence really helps you sort of navigate what's right and wrong. And so again, just kind of thinking about the world right now is championing really tolerance and kind of acceptance, and especially I think that model in the workplace. And so what is your advice to us to sort of counter that false image of friendship that's offered to us from the world, and really instead model that true friendship that Christ has shown to us?
Yeah. So without getting too specific, and it might be interesting to see if some of our listeners have some examples. There is a right kind of tolerance, it seems to me. There is a proper respect for those with diverse points of view. What's problematical about many of the contemporary uses of tolerance is that it's become a kind of intolerance, right?
Right.
And you're being asked to endorse life choices or ways of being in the world that are, in fact, you think, inimical to of the person, right? So if you're forced to, in some way, signal your full embrace of transgender ideology,
Right.
or a view of marriage that is problematical, right? And you feel as though there are pressures put upon you if you don't do that. It could be an opportunity for you to utilize the church's own language about the deep respect we should have for every single person, the love we should have for every single person, and that every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. So rather than trying to just say no, and you may have to say no to some things, right? Try to recast this as an opportunity to show that you are in fact animated by a deep love for each and every person, and that love entails a commitment to their true good, their full good, and for you to say that a way of acting or being is contrary, or is in fact good when it's not. That's not showing real love. So, I mean, there are a million ways in which this plays out, and all kinds of subtleties that I know many people are forced to wrestle with when it comes to the kind of virtue signaling that has become prevalent within many corporations. And I don't think there's a prescription, but I think having the mindset that I'm going to be faithful to who I am, with a being who loves others, and I'm going to witness to that love, be a witness to hope, be a witness to joy, and find ways to communicate that don't capitulate on your fundamental moral principles.
That's excellent. And I just want to remind our viewers right now that we will be taking questions live very soon. So go ahead and post your question in the chat. So you just mentioned being a witness to love. That's so beautiful. And our slogan with YCP is actually that we're called to work and witness for Christ. So last question before we take questions live. How can this concept of really cultivating friendships at work actually help us to be better evangelists?
Well, you've opened up many avenues for deeper conversations, and for many of us, our workplace friendships do spill over into opportunities to grab a drink after work, or you can invite someone to mass, right? You don't, again, necessarily start with that, right? And you may find that when people find out that you're a man or woman of faith, they'll say, "Oh, I was raised a Christian or a Catholic," and well, that's a great opportunity for you to open up a conversation in the appropriate times. Well, why aren't you still practicing, right? And I have encountered many people who have shared that all it took was someone inviting them to reconsider. And so pull them into, if they're willing, pull them into your faith life
Right.
and the community that you have outside of the workplace. Many people won't be ready for that or receptive to that, but you are still providing an opportunity to witness to the hope that lies within you. That hope is ultimately Jesus Christ. And by, again, being the person that God has called you to be, embracing that fully, working on yourself, your prayer time, your exercise, and in terms of cultivating the virtues, if you're sloppy, if you're intemperate, if you're unjust, and you say, "But I love Jesus," well, you're failing. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're really exercising those virtues and pull them into your examination of conscience as you go through your day in the evening. Have I been sufficiently temperate? Have I been just? And avoid the temptation that we all have to segment out our work life from our real life, because we're called ultimately to sanctify every single facet of our life and to be the same faithful witness in every dimension of our life, whether we're at the gym or in the workplace or spending time with our families.
Incredible. Thank you so much. This has been really a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure it's inspired some great questions. So let's see what we have. All right, from Emma. I've heard suggestions to limit sharing your personal life with work friends to stay professional. What are your thoughts? Any guidance on drawing this line in the workplace?
Well, I think that it's good advice as far as it goes. As I was saying before, I think you don't start with pouring out your heart. And how much of your personal life should you, in fact, cloak? Well, you're not going to take off your wedding ring if you're married when you go to work.
Right.
And you shouldn't feel like you have to clean off the ashes on Ash Wednesday when you've gone to the morning mass, or avoid going to the morning mass simply so that you don't reveal that. So there are parts of yourself that will become apparent no matter what. Your personal life also entails the way in which you are interacting with others, right? People can tell, are you a woman of character or not? And that will make them curious. If you are a woman or a man of character, they'll want to know, how do I become a person of deeper character, right? What's the secret here, right? So again, I don't think we should start by pouring out our personal life on others. But I don't think we need to cloak who we are. And we can fall into that trap I was just describing of really living overly segmented lives if we feel like we have to hide who we are, right? But just by being the virtuous person you're called to be, people will want to get to know you better. And then I think we are called to be evangelists.
Yeah.
This is the fundamental commission of every Catholic, and so look for those opportunities where those features of your personal life can be shared appropriately.
Totally. And I think sometimes too, when we share, about our personal lives, we almost give other people a little bit more of that invitation to do so as well. And they might really want to, and you never know if that might lead to some sort of a conversation about faith. So, I think sometimes we do have to be willing to take that risk and to share. Again, we need to practice the virtues to make sure we're not oversharing, as you said. But I think we do actually have to share because other people might be wanting to share and just needing that encouragement. So we kind of have to take that first step.
I think
Makes
it
a lot
can.
of sense. All right, let's see what other questions we have. From Veronica. What tips do you have when it comes to cultivating friendships with your coworkers when working from home and
Mhm.
in-person interaction is limited?
Yeah, that's a real challenge. And I think looking for opportunities maybe to get on the phone rather
Mhm.
than only using email is one way, or utilizing Zoom or whatever platform your company utilizes for some of those exchanges that you might to try to approximate what you do when you walk into somebody else's office.
Mhm.
They're sitting in the office, and then take advantage of those opportunities that your company offers to get together and
Mhm.
socialize. I don't know of any company that doesn't provide some of those engagement opportunities, and I think those are really valuable moments. It your progress in cultivating friendship will necessarily be slowed,
Mhm.
and I don't know that you can ever fully know someone without having actual engagements.
Right.
And you have to be careful, I think, to not project a view of another that's not actually rooted in
Yeah.
reality, right? So if you feel like your best friend is somebody with whom you spend a lot of time at work, um, um, well, that could be problematical, right? Do you have other friends outside of work? Is this somebody who's living near enough to you that you could spend time outside of work, and but you got to guard your heart a little bit
Mhm.
when you don't have those in-person interactions that really can make sure our perceptions are grounded in reality.
Totally. And then also, I mean, wouldn't you say too, just taking the extra time to inquire about their personal lives, your coworkers? So, like you said, if you're calling a coworker on the phone, take 5 minutes to ask about their family. To ask what they've been up to. I think make sure you end the phone conversation with something personal. Yes, we're all looking for productivity here, but studies have shown that people who have friendships at work, they actually are more loyal to the company.
That's right.
So I think it's worth the extra 5 minutes of time to go out of your way.
I totally agree. And the workplace is not a merely transactional set of encounters. It is a fertile field
Hmm.
for cultivating those deeper relationships that we
Totally.
ultimately hope will be relationships of friendship.
Absolutely. All right. Do we have another? From Joe. Can you speak to the role of the CEO or cultural officer in building an environment that's friendly?
Yes, I strive to do that in a variety of ways, and Um, Jen just mentioned one of the things that I strive to do, which is to get to know, particularly my direct reports,
Hmm.
and encourage them to get know for them to get to know their direct reports in a way that shows that you care,
Hmm.
right? And to do that in a way that's not just geared towards maximizing output, but
Right.
to actually care and ask questions that show you actually care. When somebody has a death in the family, send flowers
Right.
and have a mass said if you think that they would appreciate that.
Yes.
Show up at the funeral and be present at those moments where you can thank people. I always strive, but sometimes I fail, but I always strive to begin every engagement with thanking somebody for something,
Yes.
and being very clear in what we're communicating about, summarizing it, and then thanking them again.
Mhm.
And so you know, wrapping all communications in a kind of thank you sandwich, so to speak, is I think very helpful. And then to model. To really try to work on myself in a way that models the kind of commitments that are really important to me. So
Mhm.
those virtues that we discussed, and here's an area that I need to do a better job. I tend to put in a lot of hours and go the extra mile, and I have a family and they want to see me, and um, making clear that I really do prioritize my family, more than just mentally or
Yes.
spiritually, but in terms of time commitment.
Yes.
And that liberates those who report to you to
Yeah.
be family focused as well. When I'm traveling, I make sure I hit my Sunday commitments, but even try to get to daily mass if I can. And
Yes.
other people see that. So those little ways in which you express your fundamental commitments to your faith, to your family, um, finding ways to, you don't brag about that, but people know it's not just okay for you to do that as well. This is what I want you to do. I want
Yes.
you to prioritize your family. And so
Totally.
be careful not to be a total pace setter all the time, and slow
Really
down those things.
goes back to witness, right? It's really so important. This is just such a really essential topic, and I want to thank you for having the foresight to select this topic and for being so I think helpful. I really think that this is an excellent conversation. There's so much we could talk about. There's even the saints who were friends. So many, Saint Francis and Clare.
Right.
Francis de Sales and Jean de Chantal, so many, and there's actually a lot there in terms of kind of ways that we can model their friendships as well, all centered, of course, in their love of God. So I think it's clear that the University of Dallas is in great hands with you.
Oh, well, thank you, Jennifer.
Just want to thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Yeah,
Thank you.